we're still having some people coming, but I think we can start. So, who shall we begin with? Let's start with Leila. How are you, Leila, today? Well, we can't hear you, Leila. Do you have your microphone on?
I do. Hold on.
Oh, now it works.
Yeah. I'm here in Swindon. I'm in the West Country, staying with my great uncle here.
Oh,
So
that sounds lovely.
I'm here.
And how's your day been?
Okay, I've been fine. And I'm going back to the southeast, South Kent tomorrow. So I'm going back tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you, Leila.
No, not
and then, who do we have here? Let's move on to Johnny. Hey, how are you?
Hey everyone, I'm streaming in from Sheffield today, which for any of our international people joining, if you were to take our tiny little island of the whole of England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and Ireland, and you tried to put a pin right in the middle of it, that's where Sheffield is, a city of about 500,000 people. And myself and my colleague Jiwei's joining us today, work for a for-impact social enterprise called Opus. We work with Marcus and Simon and some of the rest of the team at No Labels, No Walls and Citizens Network to try and affect positive change.
That's great, welcome. And then, how about Mark? How are you today?
Hello, my name's Matt. I'm tuning from Scotland and it thunderstormed over in Scotland. It's not been nice from last night. Oh, I got soaked this morning because I went shopping. I'm glad to be here for the session today. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, how about Markus? How are you?
Thank you, Hilpa. My name is Markus Vähälä from Kukunori from Finland. I'm very glad to be here with the UBI Labs network. I'm very interested in ending poverty and other economical injustices. So I think we should have universal basic income everywhere. But how can we do it? This is something that we want to talk today together with other festival topics coming into the No Labels, No Walls Festival 25th and 26th in August. So justice and art is one thing that we'll be talking today as well. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. How about Kevin?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you? I'm Kevin from Connecticut. I am with Musical Intervention, a music program, records, writes, collaborates, and performs every Thursday. So I can definitely post a link. If you all have programs that you want to share, post it in the chat.
Was that all, Kevin?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Awkward silence.
I can say that my connection is pretty poor right now, so if I start interrupting or saying something weird in a weird point, then just let me know, everyone. Okay, let's move on to John. How are you?
Yes, hi Hilpa. Hi everybody. My name is John Ma. I live in Los Angeles and I am here today to represent the LA Basic Income March on September 25th here in actually a couple different cities in the United States. New York, Nashville, Tennessee, and LA are some of the bigger ones. We're hosting basic income marches which are going to be these celebrations of the basic income movement here in the US, which is really, really picking up steam for many reasons, the pandemic being a major factor. So I'm excited to come. I was invited by my friend Christina, who is involved with the Northern California Basic Income March. And we are teaming up to spread the word in California, tie in with our international compatriots, and really just open to sharing what we're working on, hearing what others are doing. It sounds like there are people here who are passionate about this topic and seeing that it happens not only in our lifetimes, but perhaps in the next decade. So happy to jump into some work with everybody. Thanks.
Great to have you here. Welcome. And then next, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but Chijive?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Hello, everybody.
Is it? Great.
It is,
Thank
yeah.
you. Okay, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Chiwe, and I work for Opus Independence. And one of the projects I work on is the UBI Lab Network, and I'm really looking forward to chatting to you guys today. I live in Rotherham in the north of England.
Oh, welcome. Thank you. And then how are you, Jim?
Hey all, I'm Jim Hugh. I'm in Oakland, California. I'm a co-director of the Universal Income Project. Michael had reached out to us a while back about the festival. We used to be a grassroots group doing advocacy around UBI. These days we do more work on the policy side. But I've been talking to Christina about the Basic Income March, and so thought it seemed like a good connection. So I shared the information there and wanted to join as well to see what was going on.
Great to have you here. Welcome. And how are you, Marlene?
Hey, good morning. I'm fine. Thank you. It's so great to be here with everyone in this international space. I'm in Los Angeles. I work for Theater Workers Project. I'm a teaching artist and a writer and a filmmaker. In Theater Workers Project, we provide writing, theater, and movement, basically serving system impacted individuals. We work both inside and outside of prisons. So I'm really happy to be here.
Welcome. And then let's move on to Susie.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Susie Tanner, coming to you from LA County, the city of Pasadena. I'm the founder and director of Theater Workers Project, and we do everything that Marlene just articulated. In addition, we produce professionally written plays and performance pieces. And we're here today to add anything we can to the art and justice and art planning for the festival. So good morning, all.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And then Neasley, hey, how are you?
Good morning, everyone. Neasley here in Los Angeles. Looking forward to spending this time, this conversation with basic income, and interested in justice and social issues. I am a pastor and a chaplain. And so my hope is always to try to figure out ways to make people's lives better and how to bring people together in fellowship and discipleship even. So yeah, happy to be here. And of course, a member of Stringberg Lab. So happy to be here.
Welcome. I'm talking about Stringberg Lab. Michael and Mary, how are you?
Thank you. We well. I'm talking for Michael as well. So we are the Stringberg Laboratory nonprofit theater here in Los Angeles. And really, really excited about today's topics, universal income and justice in art, close to our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And then let's see. Kyle, hello, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing really well. Thanks for asking. I'm probably going to hop on another device here when I get seated. Doing well. First time meeting here. Was really interested in the subject matter. Hoping to be a fly on the wall or a listener. Happy to contribute. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Welcome. Was that all, or I'm just trying to go through the list of the names that I forgotten someone, but no, I think that I have now asked everyone to introduce themselves and say hello. So then I guess it's, yeah.
Hello, I haven't introduced myself. This is Christina from Northern California.
I'm sorry.
No worries. So as Jim and John both mentioned, I'm here on behalf of the Basic Income March. I know I spoke with some of you on Facebook, and that's how we got invited today to join. So just really looking forward to learning more about the org and what you guys do, and somehow getting involved into all this. So thanks for having us.
Great to have you here. Thank you, Christina. Okay, so now after that small slide, I think that everyone's had the opportunity to introduce themselves. So then it's only me. And my name is Hilppa, and I'm a mental health activist with a pretty strong background in theater. And I'm here today to listen and, of course, again, promote my own project or action for hope and justice. So who's going to continue from here? Is it Meri now, or Michael, or Markus?
I can continue here. Thank you so much, Hilppa.
Thank you.
So we are now moving towards No Labels, No Walls Festival, and UBI Lab Network and Opus. We are collaborative in Citizen Network, and we've been designing a new concept called Citizen Fest this year, and it's a continuation of citizenship festivals around the world. So Opus, they've been very closely coordinating the Festival of Debate this year. Now we have No Labels, No Walls. We had the Toronto Summer Institute in July, and in October we will have We Are One Festival in Scotland. And we decided that this year each festival would have universal basic income as a topic. So we have a continuation of sharing this idea that actually emerged from last year's No Labels, No Walls Festival, with a lot of people interested in the subject. And we have had 3 times Action Mondays about universal basic income lately. So I would like to welcome Johnny and Chichiwe and everybody from UBI Lab Network here today to talk about how to make this happen everywhere. We have had these kind of dreams of having UBI Lab set up here in Finland. How can we make that happen? What kind of stories can we follow? How are other laboratories being built? So Johnny and everybody from UBI Lab Network, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Marcus. Really great to be here again with you all and working with you on this project. We have been working on this project as a part of Opus because we see basic income as a real catalyst that allows lots of people with all sorts of different lived experiences to become more involved in the challenges that we all face. And there's one sort of element of expertise in inverted commas that often gets ignored or devalued in the context of other forms of expertise in qualifications or academia or circles of knowledge, not to suggest that those elements aren't important, but that's the expertise of lived experience. Like the people best suited to dealing with problems are people who understand those problems from a first-hand lived experience. So the reason that we at Opus have focused on the UBI Lab Network as a project is because we see it as a real catalyst that enables lots more people to get involved in that. And we've been working on it for about 4 years now. It's accelerated significantly during the pandemic. So we've gone from about 7 or 8 labs to 40 across the world. Most of those located geographically, but quite a few of those located non-geographically or thematically, because people with shared lived experiences have come together, because although they might live in all sorts of different places across the world, there are not necessarily any boundaries between those people when they have that shared lived experience. They have a lot more in common than they do have different, despite the fact that they live in completely different areas in the world. So rather than just talk to you about what we've been doing straight off the bat, what we'd actually like to do is pose a question that hopefully gets to the heart of maybe what a basic income could be more about from your own perspectives and wherever you are. And we just thought we'd have a bit of a conversation, no particular order. There's no obligation for everybody to make a contribution, but it would be great to hear from you. What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning?
Well, specifically this morning, it's Monday, start of the week, had a little bit of space over the weekend to not be on email because people don't respond anyways. So I was like, give myself some time off. And then wanted to hit it really quick this morning, just sending out invites to organizations in LA. This is very tactical. This is very specific because that's kind of what we're in the mode for this event just around the corner. But sending out, invitations and things to orgs here in LA. It's interesting. We're trying to build a coalition for basic income. It's surprising because on the one hand, LA is very much the epicenter of basic income progress in the United States. If you were to look, I think objectively at what's happening in the United States, the number of pilots, we're in the pilot stage in the US, right? These different municipalities, counties, states that are putting out small groupings of, a couple hundred, sometimes as low as a couple in the tens, all the way up to the thousands of people that are receiving a basic income, typically based on some sort of populational reason. Somebody here mentioned systems involved individuals. In the States, that typically means people who have, and forgive me if I'm characterizing your organization incorrectly, but when I hear that term, it usually implies someone who has either experienced our prison system or our foster care system or various forms of mental health systems, and people who have left those systems or are at risk of entering them or are currently in them. That's an example of a specific population that our pilots are serving, which is all to say that it's very exciting that our country and our states and our counties and our cities are giving money to people to show to the world that when you give direct cash to individuals who need the cash, the money is spent very judiciously, very appropriately, appropriately, whatever, but in ways that enrich that person's life, that sort of shatter our preconceptions about what poor folks, which in our country at least is very this dirty thing that America is about entrepreneurship, and the only reason that you're poor is because you're not good at things or whatever the lie is. Culturally, that's a very American, I think, thing that we subscribe to, and this shows that that's not true, and it shows that a lot of the challenges that we face can be solved with direct cash. Great. I think everybody here understands that. But what's missing in all of this is to truly move beyond that stage into the universal policies that I think Jim is working on, the truly universal programs where you get it no matter who you are, for whatever reason, you get the same amount. You get it all the time. It's going to be coming. You can plan your life around it. That next step is so important. And that is going to take people power. So in Los Angeles, we're trying to build the coalition of groups. I'm excited there are people here from the arts community because I'm not personally involved hands-on with the arts. I admire it and I enjoy it, but it's not something that I'm involved in directly as an organizer. But these are communities that we need to bring together with some of the policy groups, some of the local organization, community serving groups. And also, it sounds like you're in that intersection already. You're working with individuals and bringing arts into their world. I'm very excited to connect with all of you. That's my invitation. Please, I'll put my email in the chat and I'll fill the links in. Please shoot me something. But that's what gets me out of the bed in the morning is the idea that by putting in some time and effort on my side, in my quarantined home, I can perhaps reach other individuals who want to create the people network that it's going to take to move us from this very exciting stage. We never thought we'd get here, so many pilots, but to the even more important stage next of a universal program, whether that's a child allowance or a UBI, whatever it is. So, yeah.
Oh, nice one. Thanks, John. And that's so evident in the way that you speak, how your passion for making those connections and bringing people together to try and get to that next stage and the one after that really makes a difference to lots of people. And as you were describing, even people that you don't know yet, or people that you're not as a part of a community of. That was a really wonderful insight. Thank you. Kevin, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yes. Hi. One thing that I've been doing, at least just to echo that sentiment, what really gets me up is, well, in one sense, the sun, weather usually does, but what really after the fact, because music is like a big passion of mine, what really drives it home for me isn't so much what's being written, what's being recorded, it's who and the initial, I guess, inception of it, who I'm working with, what are we building out of? What are we building the song out of? And this can be applied to anything else outside of music, outside of the arts. And I think that in some aspects, with this basic universal income, I think it should be, well, I think it should be available for everyone. And it's going to take a lot of people to really build that momentum, work together in that sense. And what we're doing with the festival, hopefully this is just a big bridge to like get everyone on the same wavelength, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And again, really interesting that you're quickly drawn to something that is meaningful to you. We're not talking in kind of the normal validation terms of what things might be expected of us. The things that actually get us out of bed in the morning are the things that we're interested in, that are meaningful to us. And I think that's so important. Is anyone else care to kind of share what gets them actually out of bed in the morning, you know, when it's like really comfortable and maybe the weather isn't so nice outside? Well, how do you still pull the duvet up?
Well, I don't have a problem with the weather not being nice because that's not an issue. But what gets me up in the morning, honestly, is the excitement and figuring out and finding out what God is going to do with me that day. It's like, who is he going to connect me with me to today? Who's going to bless me? Who am I going to bless? Who do I get to talk to? Sort of like, whose lives do I get to touch? That's like the first thing I think about when I wake up. I'm like, oh yeah, what's it gonna be? And then, you know, do devotion and whatever. Then I'm like, oh, I actually have to move out of the bed to make that happen. Oh, well, right. But that's the initial thing. When I open my eyes, that's like what really pops in my head every time. What is he going to do today with me? So.
Wonderful. Thank you. Again, a wonderful insight into, I suppose, a higher purpose of kind of thinking beyond yourself. So not just thinking beyond the duvet and beyond the house, but actually thinking of what those wonderful opportunities might be to interact with someone, as uncertain as that might be, but fascinated by the opportunity and that might hold is a wonderful way to look at what could be beyond the duvet. And anyone else care to share what gets them out of bed in the morning? It can be as small and personal or as grand and big as you like.
Well, okay, Kyle, you go first.
Too late, you beat me to it. I'll go after you, because I might want to steal some of your answer.
Okay, so for me, what gets me up in the morning, despite the weather or whatever, is now this sounds horrible to some people, but it's me. I mean that after going through like some very serious mental health issues, and through all that, becoming a safe person for myself and the person that I at some point fell madly in love with, then that's me. Absolutely. Kind of like the trust that I have towards myself. And even though it would be a bad day, then still I know that it's still worth trying at least something. Thank you.
Thank you.
For me, it's a couple things. Unfortunately, hatred is one of them. I have some friends, love really wakes them up and animates their behavior throughout the day. For me, it's the passion of being involved in a conflict that I trust I can't win, and recognizing the limitations of my humanity that comes with that. There is some fear and some competition up under there as well. But more than anything, I'd say hatred. Happy to add context. Thanks for listening.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anyone else that would like to add to this question, or are we ready for the next one?
Yeah. I think we're probably ready for the next one. I'm not seeing any hands up, so I'll jump in. That's okay. So I would like to check with everyone, and feel free to answer this as a person in your individual right, or maybe the communities that you work with. So if somebody paid your bills for a full year, what would you do? What would you be able to do for yourself, or what would the people you work with be able to do, as far as you can see?
I think I would spend most of my time investing it in people who live on the streets that are, unsheltered. Because I live in a place, I'm in New York, where it's so physically obvious. It's this kind of overt hatred and scorn that society has for poor people. When I got here to New York about a year and a half ago, I was on the same boat. I didn't know it's so here. So I want to say that it's a connection to helping people who I feel relatable to, or who are in the spot I've been, but particularly with people who live on the streets, who have 1,000 people walk past them a day as if they're a germ. Okay. Thanks for listening.
And thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's really encouraging, inspiring, actually. Anybody else? What would you do if your bills were paid for a full year? Yeah, well, Johnny. Yeah, go ahead. Marcus?
I would work with environmental issues. I learned from Johnny and Chiwe that we need universal basic income to save the world, because we are working on things that are not saving the world. So we are too busy doing something that's not related in the safety of environment and protecting people. So it creates opportunities for doing something positive for our local community and for the environment.
Absolutely like that. And I think there's a growing school of thought around how universal basic income could actually really, really become a catalyst towards the protection and restoration of the environment. So thanks for that thinking. Johnny, did you have your hand up as well? Okay. Anyone want to contribute to this? What would you do? Yeah, go ahead, Nicely.
Well, I would basically jump right into sort of what I consider to be what I'd like to do with the rest of my life. And it would be to buy property and create a transitional home for aged out foster girls. Girls that are in foster care. That is that thing I would love to do. Build just a really amazing space where they could live, at least until they are better prepared to face the world and not having to face the world at 17 and becoming an adult and paying their own rent, which is undoable.
Very significant. Absolutely. Very significant work. Yeah. Thank you. Looking for more contributors to the conversation or your community, the people you work with, how do you see them? How do you see them benefiting from something like that for a full year, for example? What do you see?
Yeah, I'm really inspired by each of the answers that have come forward so far. Kyle, Marcus, and is it Nisley? Nisley? Yeah. Nisley's answer. Oh, I'm sorry.
Nisley, yes.
Nisley. Yeah, your answers remind me. So I work with a lot of volunteers, and we use the word volunteer. I feel like that's sort of a cheap way to describe what they do. But it's individuals from all walks of life in all different neighborhoods in Los Angeles, especially during the pandemic when people couldn't work in many cases, and did get the benefit of direct cash, whether it was truly direct cash or some sort of unemployment benefit. And we all got together. I'm speaking generally, but really it is a very, very widespread phenomenon. People who really began to organize what we call unhoused outreach here in our neighborhoods, which is about getting supplies and checking in on our neighbors who are living outdoors, homeless individuals, and making sure that they are supplied with the things they need to get by every day. And also, if they wish to connect with services, that they have a trusted person that can help them do that. And these are things that now that the world is reopening here in Los Angeles, a lot of people are struggling because these volunteers I'm talking about, they're having to go back to work and to work in jobs that they don't like, to do things in companies they don't believe in, simply because they can't pay the bills otherwise. Meanwhile, the relationships that they do care about are, I won't say withering, but they're given less attention, they're given less energy, and it's a choice that people don't feel like is really a choice at all, that they have to work in order to keep themselves to survive. And the amount of effort and energy that goes into it is so, it's very depressing, I guess, is the best way to put it. Some of the hatred, Kyle, you were speaking about, I think I know maybe what you're talking about. I'm not sure what you're dealing with, but it makes me very angry that it's a hopeless anger. It's a very hopeless form of anger. And I try to divert that into the positive organizing work of universal basic income, because that's a way out of this. But in the meantime, when we're sort of dealing with the day-to-day, it's hard to see people that have so much to offer and having to, I guess, look out for themselves. And meanwhile, communities are sort of, I was just out there yesterday talking to unhoused people, and to them, they've been out there on the streets for some people a very, very long time. And it's, helpers come and go. And so for them, it's not as big of a thing. It's like, oh yeah, we expect, whatever, that's whatever. But that whatever is also not something I like to see, how accepting people are of that reality. So, the whole thing is very sad, but I think with universal basic income, people could do what they wanted to do. And lots of times that's helping other people, so.
Thank you. Thanks for that reflection. Kyle, is that hand up? Sorry, I'm not sure whether you have your hand up or it's, yeah, go ahead then. Your mic's muted.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a new hand. One of the things that spoke to me in the last comment was this difficulty that a lot of people are dealing with of contributing to, at the point of force, systems that they don't like, benefiting from them in fact. And I think there can be an emotional erosion of fatigue that comes with participating in that. And I'm interested in hearing, I don't know if the conversation has space together. I'm always interested in hearing how people are coping with that and how people are like implementing sustainability into the work of progression.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm sure as we go along, we could bring in some elements of the conversation. Let me just get Marlene, and then I'll pass you back to Johnny.
Hi, Kyle. It's so interesting that you mentioned that, because I'm sitting here thinking, what would I do? Right? I mean, that kind of possibility of unlimited or having your bills taken care of, right? Or and one of the things that I do, that I'm involved in, is self-care. I really think, this idea of revolutionary self-care that Angela Davis talks about, that is so important. And I think that, and I also practice yoga. I bring yoga, I have a grassroots organization that brings yoga into communities where yoga is not available. And this idea of being able to set up a place in communities where you could go and get taken care of, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, this idea of being able to have self-care and for us to take care of ourselves, knowing that when we fill our cups, we can go out and we can do the work that's necessary, and making that available, because it is right now a high price thing. I mean, the reason why I started my yoga, grassroots yoga organization, because yoga was $24 a class, and it just wasn't available. And I know how healing that can be. So that would be my dream, to have like a sustainable place where folks could come and take care of themselves and be able to pay teachers, particularly teachers of color, to do this work. So I don't know if that answers what you're talking about, Kyle, but I do think that is so important.
Thank you for speaking to the question I had about sustainability. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Marlene. And if there are no more contributions to that bit, I'll pass you back to Johnny.
Thanks, Chiwe, and thank you everyone for your contributions. They add so much important, I think, perspective to the really big question that I think it's important to ask with the universal basic income campaigning, or any campaign really, which is, why are we doing this? And there's this really interesting assumption that I think we all make is that as we progress forward and we talk about kind of the human race evolving, we assume that naturally defaults to things becoming better. Our ability to adapt is what has got us to this point. But the idea that evolution means that we are going forward is not actually true. We adapt to cope with the situations that we're presented with all of the time. We're amazing at doing that. We have this incredible flexibility inbuilt into us. We have this amazing capacity to deal with all sorts of situations that we've collectively had to deal with over the last 18 months, that in some ways has shown us some of the bad sides of us, but has also shown us this incredible insight to the kind of natural element to us to look out for each other and to care for each other. And I think the really interesting thing when we ask these sorts of questions is that often and there's a massive privilege in this element in this, is that the majority of people aren't doing the things that bring them kind of purpose and satisfaction. And when we're talking about universal basic income, what we're kind of talking about is something that we know when we feel it inside us. And we're talking about this kind of word that's impossible to define, which is freedom. We're talking about this concept that's almost impossible to define, which is choice. And we're talking about this construct that wraps around all of us, which is time. And I think it's really interesting that when we're talking about how do we campaign to make this thing a reality, that we kind of understand and see between each other why we're doing this kind of thing. And actually, when we ask these questions, it's often for very similar reasons. It's to make a difference, it's to make an impact, it's to do things for others, because that is our kind of natural default place. And I think that the thing that we've learned with the network as it is expanded, and we've got the geographic labs, that is quite easy to see, because people identify geographically with the town or the city or the region or the country or the nation that they're from, and that gives them part of their identity. But we've also seen the evolution of our non-geographic labs. So we have a youth lab, we have a women's lab, we have an LGBTQ plus lab, we have an arts lab, we have a food lab, and we have a disability lab. And that speaks to people's lived experience. So regardless of where they're from, they have a significant similarity or understanding or camaraderie with those people that understand that perspective of the world. And I think that the thing that we'd like to sort of discuss for the remaining part of the session is, yeah, maybe some strategies, yeah, maybe some tactics, but really how we take basic income as a campaign and weave it into the projects you're all working on. I mean, we're very lucky because we've got Christina, and Jim, and John, and myself and Chiwe, who are already doing stuff that hopefully we can be some of the conduits. But with all of these challenges that we face, and the reason that we take basic income as a catalyst to help with those is because we think it can facilitate and help with lots of other campaigns. Like it speaks to social justice, it speaks to the climate crisis that we're seeing become significantly more prevalent in the most recent weeks and months. And the report that's been issued today, which is like scientists literally screaming at the world going, what is it going to take for us to act? They're all knitted together and they're far too complicated to deal with en masse. And the reason we ask those questions about what gets you up in the morning, what difference would it make to your community, is because they're the things that we think we need to tap into, so that people, and to speak to your question as well, Kyle, so that people can do these things sustainably. Yes, they need a break from it, but it also needs to not be another burden to take on top of their lives already. It needs to be something that actually facilitates them dealing with the things that already matter to them, their families, their friends, and their communities. So I suppose the question I'm getting to is, there is campaigning activity going on. How can we work better with you to join the dots of what already exists? How can we put in the additional 10 or 20% that joins up what's happening already? And I think this is true of the wider citizens network, that there's loads of incredible people like yourselves doing amazing stuff already. We want to integrate into that, not try and start separate channels of stuff. And hopefully that facilitates us finding the paths of least resistance and the levers that we can pull to apply on politicians or on kind of conjugations or concentrations of power that push people to integrate this into what they're doing as well.
John, before we get into that, John, just want to, I wrote there, it's about 9:45, and I want to make sure that we also talk about your UBI Labs festival event that's going to be taking place at the festival, because perhaps we can have more time for like more questions, in the future, so this action doesn't end, as well as kind of going into what you just said. How does it also relate to other movements, and how can we plug everything in together? So is it okay the next like 15 minutes we kind of go into that, so then everybody knows when to come back and how to keep going this momentum of continuous action? Would that be all right?
Yeah, absolutely. I very much like your trick that means that you have a muted symbol, but you're able to talk. I definitely want to know how to do that on a Zoom call. That's welcome.
Well, it's because I have two screens going at once.
Oh, I'm so
a fan of-
disappointed that that's
yes,
the answer.
that's the answer. So that being said, and I want to just plug the Justice in Art event that's going to Hope for Justice in Art, which actually goes to justice, because UBI obviously is a justice-related theme and tool. And I also want to go into what the UBI Labs is going to be doing at the festival. So to start that, Marcus, can you talk about when the UBI Labs festival event is going to be? And then I'm going to open the door for Susie Tanner and then Marlene to talk a little bit about the Hope for Justice in Art along with ourselves. And then perhaps at the end, we can collaborate on, if we have time, for some other questions and stuff. So Marcus, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey,
thank you, Michael.
Thanks, buddy.
So at the festival, 26th of August, we will join forces with all the UBI people and all of us at the festival in creating and building networks around UBI. Like Johnny said, that we are already doing great stuff. Let's put that theme into what we are doing. And this event will be on the 26th of August, 8 o'clock Finnish time, 6 o'clock UK time, and Michael knows what's that time in California.
Wait, say it again. What time? 3:30.
6 o'clock UK time. So
it's 1 hour from. So it would be at 10 o'clock Pacific.
Yes. And I hope I meet all of you there, because we are not stopping there. We are continuing the action after the action, but let's all come together on the 26th. Then now it's Susie, your turn.
Hi. So Marlene and I are collaborating on a Justice and Art poem and event, and I believe would it be on the 25th that we're doing this? That's from what I understand.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. So Michael, if you could put in the chat the link for folks to contribute a thought, a word, an image to this group poem.
Susie, what I was thinking is, you want to just do it, you want to just go through the poem now? I can share my screen for everybody.
No, we're actually we're really not prepared to do that right now.
No problem.
We prefer not to rush into it. I think it would be more fruitful for folks to go to the link, to read the writing prompt. Marlene, if you want to say a few words about what you intend to do, and I'll just turn it over to Marlene.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. As Susie mentioned, and Michael, what we're trying to do is to create what we're calling an international group poem. And the theme of the poem is a hope for justice. So if Michael puts that in the chat, you'll see the writing prompt. We're asking folks to include either just a couple of sentences, a word, artwork, anything that expresses what you feel would be a hope for justice, right? We're looking at really creating something, this vision of what we want the world to be, the world we're trying to create. And once we get everything together, we will then turn that into some type of, we haven't really talked about the process yet, but we'll figure it out, some type of group poem, group presentation that we will have at the festival.
Just to add to that, there's already some responses if everybody looks on the link to get kind of inspiration. And the justice can be of any type of justice: environmental justice, income inequality justice, criminal justice, you name it. Also, I put on the chat short email if you know of groups, organizations that also want to get involved in the event. And then I will also, it's also in the festival event Facebook page, which I will also put in the chat.
So we encourage you, please contribute your ideas, your thoughts, your art, so that we can create something that is going to be powerful and meaningful together.
Last thing, everyone, there's also 2 other shared events which connects to UBI, which is revolutionary listening and building the bigger we. It's about actually talking to people that you consider other, and then asking them a series of questions to get them know them better that are pre-listed. And it's about what happens when we actually listen to people and we actually take them in, and how does that affect us and the people that we're talking to. The last event that we're, well, not the last, but another event is about creating music, music without borders. So Kevin, I don't know if you want to say just a tiny bit about that, and then we'll leave it off with the UBI people to say anything that they would like as well at the end.
So the event is already created, but what it is we are uniting the world with a song, and that is my colleague and I, well, my boss, Adam, the founder of Musical Intervention. What we did was we created a instrumental, this blank canvas of a beat and a hook. We are going to send it out. There will be a Google Drive link for anyone who wants to participate. They can sing the hook, they can contribute their own lyrics, they can contribute a poem, a spoken word, freestyle rap, or a instrumental solo, anything musical. And what we're hoping to do after the action, after the festival, is to keep it going so we can, anyone who wants to participate, even if it's late, they can still add on to the song. And we're hoping to have a big opus of this universal song by next year. And if you are interested, I've had the event, but I can post it into the chat before we go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And please post that link to the chat. And Hilpa, you have an action as well. Would you like to tell a little bit about it?
Yeah, I just quickly share my screen with you guys, and then I can show you this this email pamphlet that I have for it. So it has all the information that you need, and since we are right now a bit running out of time, I'm not going through the details, but what I'm doing is I'm collecting pictures of hats from people that have mental health issues or difficulties. So basically, if we look at the bigger picture from everyone all over the world, because it really doesn't ask the color of your skin or your financial income or what or anything else. And I'm hoping for people to take a picture of their hat or whatever headgear, so it can be a cap or a beanie or whatever, and then send a picture to me, and you will get more info from this pamphlet. And I'm going to a second, stop sharing from here, and then now it's in the chat. So through this link you can download the flyer or the infomercial of my project, and please take part. I have said this every Monday, that please send me pictures if you can, and only like very few people from this group have participated. So I think it would be really nice to get like people who are involved in No Labels and No Walls, since it's our festival. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilpa. And back to Johnny and Chiwe.
Thanks, Marcus. So I'm aware we've only got a couple of minutes left, but I think Michael made a really good point, which is that this is the kind of start of a conversation, and we treat this very much as a kind of ongoing, evolving campaign. It is going to take us practically years to achieve this in each country, in each area. So we're in this for the long haul. So we very much see this as a kind of the start of a conversation. So we'd love to hear any thoughts that you have around where there may be that overlap between maybe some of the work you're doing, maybe if there was an opportunity to start a conversation about some events where we can do a joint event that looks at some of the issues that have been mentioned and how UBI might impact that.
I'll say one thing as it connects to the work that's been happening around UBI in California and around the US is, I think many folks here may be aware, but we have a lot of UBI/guaranteed income pilot programs that are in the process of launching in California and around the United States now, more than 15 in California and more than 50 across the US. And I think those have actually served as like very powerful focal points around the idea that, frankly, I think the things that we'll learn via traditional research from those is, in many cases, pretty minimal, because we already know this is something that works. But what it does is it provides a way for people to become much more locally familiar with the program. So just one idea I tossed out is, I think that looking at that connection and I think seeing those as a vehicle for pushing the underlying narrative about how society could change here seems to me like a really powerful, there's a lot of potential around that. And so that is something where for in areas where this is happening, engaging around that and making sure to push that. In areas where it's not happening, perhaps pushing to say, we need to do a pilot program here. Again, not to do research, but to really drive that narrative forward. And I just saw Marcus posted a question, how can we reach all these California UBI people organizations? Well, I mean, you have on the call, John and Christina, who are great folks to be talking to about California, the grassroots network here. And then the other organization that's very involved in a lot of these pilots is the Mayors for Guaranteed Income Initiative, which came out of the Stockton Basic Income pilot that wrapped up in the last year. And so if there is a more concerted effort around that, it would probably be good to get in touch with those folks as well.
Thanks, Jim. That's great. Kyle got a hand up.
Yeah. I hope I'm answering the question directly. In my personal experience, I've got there's a bit of fear that comes with introducing the topic. I'm not at all in doubt or questionable about the necessity of it, but I think it is an extra act of imagination to consider how to implement the discussion into platforms where I already have space to introduce topics and facilitate meaningful conversation. But I do have those spaces, and I think for me, there has to be some willingness to take some risk, because for example, one of the organizations I'm involved with, Boston Knapsack Anti-Racism Group. I've got a platform, or I participate in a platform where the theme is generally racial justice, and for anyone who thinks about it long enough, it's quite inseparable from reparative, restorative programs, UBI being the most obviously applicable and probably least controversial. So I certainly know what the connection points are, and I'm willing to do that work. So this, if the question was like, what can we individually take on and apply, then I think that's what I meant. No.
Thanks, Carl. That's really good. And if you sound like you're involved in lots of different things, and therefore probably incredibly busy. But if you ever had the time, it would be amazing we use our blog on our website, not just to talk about basic income, but to give lots of different perspectives of kind of how things might connect or people could learn from other people's experience. It'd be great to have you write a blog or do a piece. It doesn't necessarily need to be written for that could maybe start making some of those connections.
As it's my first time, I'm gonna make sure that my email and my cell phone number are in the chat, and I want to verbally invite everyone to reach out to me for any type of dialogue that you're interested in around the topic or around topics that I'm involved in. In case I don't state it well in the chat, please feel free to contact me once.
Oh, bless.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kyle. Leila, did you have a hand up?
Yeah, when in the other earlier conversation you were talking about disability labs, what are they?
So it's one of the labs. So we have it's the UBI Lab Disability. So these are the groups we have under the UBI Lab Network, addressing various issues from a UBI, various issues. So this one is focused on disabilities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And,
okay, I understand.
Yeah, I could send you a link to that. Yeah.
How are we doing for time, Marcus? I feel like we're close to, if not past the hour.
Yeah, this has been a very passionate hour, a lot of topics, and we have to continue this every Monday. It's an Action Monday, and next Monday we will be joining Peter from Dramalogen from Sweden, and we will be talking about culture houses from Finland and Sweden, and how to connect all the people creating art and culture around the world. How can we create peer-supported art and culture? And Leila and many other people are working in this field. So let's invite all of our friends, because this is related to the UBI Lab topic and art and justice topics. And in the No Labels, No Walls is a limitless festival. So let's link these topics together and let's join each other's actions. I would like to thank so much Johnny and Chiwe and everybody from UBI Lab Network, and also invite all of our new friends for these Action Mondays. And let's create the festival together, and let's continue together as well. And like always, Hilpa, you have to choose the next week's host. So Hilpa, who will it be?
How about you, Mark?
I need a wee bit of help with that. Because sometimes I don't know who's who, you know.
I can help you, Mark. We can do it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know what to do either, but I just did so.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be host next week. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So let's help each other, let's support each other,
Yeah.
and let's read about universal basic income. Let's join the march that was mentioned, and let's continue working together. Thank you, everybody, and have a great week. See you in a week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.